Welcome to the HVAC God live show. Thanks for joining us. We are uh, broadcasting live from the United States here in the great state of Virginia. I live near the coast of Virginia, so I don't know how you guys are doing, but we've got the heat going, which is would have surprised me if you told me that a couple weeks ago. Still, we didn't get much of a fall there, right? I mean, it was I guess we're in fall, but I mean, I felt like we were still very much in summer just a couple weeks ago. So the heat is going here in Virginia, and I just want to start out by saying hello to those of you that have already said hi in the chat. If you are with us and have not said hello yet, please say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're at. Where are you located? That's always fun to know. Gary says good evening from the colorful Northeast. Got the leaves changing. I grew up in the country. I grew up in the mountains of Virginia, and my brother and I would always make fun of people that would come to see the leaves changing because that was just so odd to us. To us it was just home. But folks would travel from all around to the area we lived in just to see the leaves change. So I hear you on that. Colorful Northeast indeed. Hey to Steve, let's go. Amen. Smokey Smith says, hey, everybody. Greatly appreciated last week's show. Thanks, pal. Glad to see you again. Ace Gaming, still hot down here in Southeast Texas. Does it ever not be hot? That's the question. Have you ever seen a snowflake down there? Probably not. Probably not. So good to see all you guys. I've got a jam-packed show for you, an interesting story. It's been out for a couple weeks, but usually when stories like that come out, I don't like to just immediately jump on the horn because I want to, make sure that the dust is settled, make sure that nothing is going to change because that has happened to me before. So pretty interesting story we're going to start out tonight with. But before we get to that crazy story and that news of HVAC world, let's take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's show.
Daikin Fit is so quiet, you'll definitely notice by not really noticing at all. Save space, save energy, save interruptions. Enjoy the game-changing efficiency of the Daikin Fit. It cools, dehumidifies, and heats so efficiently, it even keeps your energy bills comfortable. Daikin Fit.
All right. So looks like the chat is warming up here as we get closer to winter time. Smokey says, regarding heat pumps and supply air temperatures, anybody have any suggestions for slowing down the indoor fan speed to get to 115-ish degrees? That's part of it, right? Part of trying to get the heat rise. A lot of ECM motors, even the ones that are constant torque, will usually have a different fan speed for the winter time. And if it's auxiliary heat, a lot of times that speed is as low as it can get. They want to have a really high heat rise and definitely slow down that air. So it depends on what model you have is what my answer would be. Steve says that will drive your head pressures up. Keep that in mind. And that is very true. Very true. So, the higher the temperatures, the higher your head pressure, so it's almost like setting balance point on a dual fuel system. I think there is something to be said for reading the manuals, but if you can get away with on a really, really cold day adjusting that and you know what you're doing, I can understand why somebody might want to do that. Right now, it's not that cold yet, at least not here in Virginia. Oh, sorry. Hold on, guys. I'm hearing myself. Hold on here. I can't concentrate if I'm gonna hear myself here. Okay, there we go. So anyway, Smokey says my existing Rude unit is about 23 years old and would like to get another year out of it. Well, don't we all? Don't we all? um, that was always for customers of mine. They would always say, "Let's just get another year out of it." I'd say, "Well, you said that last year." So good enough. Good enough. Well, I hope you do get another year out of it, especially with all the changes we're seeing in our industry. Give you another year to make it an educated decision there. Let's get to the story for tonight. And that is another big player in our industry. Another big player. We talked a few weeks ago about the acquisition, or at least the intent to acquire, and that is of Bosch acquiring JCI. And I think, if I remember correctly, there was a couple other brand names that were a part of that whole deal, and we made a whole video on that. But rather than make a whole nother video on this, I just figured we'd share it here on our live show. And that is the fact that Rheem has released to the news, or made an announcement, that they intend to acquire Nortek Global HVAC. It says NGH, which I believe is Nortek Global HVAC, to join Rheem's expanding air and water businesses. Rheem has announced its intent to acquire Nortek, a leading manufacturer. We're going to cut out that leading part. Manufacturer of air conditioning products for Madison Industries. NGH is based in O'Fallon, Missouri, with manufacturing in Saltillo, Mexico, and a distribution center in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. So it says that it's of Nortek Global HVAC. Sometimes when I see these things, it does beg the question, is this the entire entity, if you will? Like, is this, so like Daikin has their Daikin residential, and then they have their Daikin commercial, which they call Daikin Applied, and several brands do things like that, just to kind of differentiate different departments. And when I do see verbiage like this, I do wonder, is this the entire kit and caboodle that they're acquiring here? And it probably is, but I'm just curious. And those of you that don't know, if you have never seen my show before, the reason I'm so hard on Nortek is they're the only company that I openly talk about harshly on my channel, only because when I had my heating and air business, they were the only company that, in my mind, brutally treated me multiple times when it came to warranties. They did not honor warranties like they should have, in my opinion, multiple times. And so they're one of the only ones that I will just openly let folks know. I warn them about them. That said, they are one of the only companies that make mobile home furnaces. And even after that whole kit and caboodle, I still had to install some of their products over the years, but I just always kept that in mind. I always had to make sure that I priced it accordingly, and I had to make sure I was, planning ahead for the fact that I would have to be covering their warranties at my company. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's why I do openly, cut out words like leading manufacturer. Nortek Global HVAC has a history of delivering market. Yeah, we're going to skip over that. That's a bunch of baloney. I'm sure it'll change with Rheem's acquisition of them, but we're not going to sit here and pretend that, they were so amazing. NGH's brand lines include Frigidaire, Maytag, Miller, Barone, Gibson, Intertherm, Partner's Choice, and other private labels. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're seeing this a lot, right? We're seeing different brands acquire, make large acquisitions. If nothing else, acquiring the names of those companies, whether they adopt the same products or strategies. And I think the thing for me, going back to the mobile home furnaces, there are some unique products that I shouldn't say only, but they're one of the only companies that offers some of those products. In fact, they actually say right here in this quote, from developing the first oil heater and sealed combustion furnace for manufactured housing to introducing an online ordering system when most people still thought fax machines were a pretty novel invention. So they touch on manufactured housing and such. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out and what changes on that front. I mean, I think we can probably all agree that there will be changes coming anyway with these new refrigerants, the codes that are kicking in, and the fact that these new refrigerants require sensors to send that system into mitigation mode if there is a leak. And so that does change some of these systems, like mobile home furnaces with uncased coils on top. But here's another, let's see, is this the same verbiage just on a different website? or do we have any new information? Looks like a little bit new information, but pretty much I know the first couple paragraphs there look almost identical to the other article, but it does go through more of the portfolio names that we see. Rheem's, all the brands that they make, or at least are affiliated with. And then we also touched on the brands that Nortek. Um, yeah, it doesn't cover it in this one. But yeah, so I do ask the question. I think it begs the question that we asked in our video that we did where we talked about Bosch acquiring JCI, and that is, what does this mean from a product standpoint from each company? Which one will influence the other one, right? Um, you would normally guess that the company that's buying everything would probably insert their um, influence on the future products more, right? And the technologies, the direction that they were heading. But you never know. I mean, just because a company acquires another company doesn't mean that they're even going to dissolve those names. They very much could continue to operate separately, covering multiple bases. And again, it's not uncommon to see heating and air manufacturers make multiple brands, right? That's not uncommon across the board. And so, anyway, I thought that was an interesting story that came out a couple weeks ago. Smokey says this modification would be for January to March. SFL, welcome to the show, says people may not believe in global warming, but the fact is the heat is getting bad. My friend, who's a farmer, lost 57% of his crops. A lot of times when people talk about these sorts of things, it gets political. And so I'm going to tiptoe around it because you can't say anything, even the obvious today, without sounding political. And there always has to be two sides to everything. But I will say this, um, whether you do or don't believe in certain things, and whether you do or don't vote a certain way over certain things, I think it's definitely safe to say that our industry is changing because of these certain things, right? And so because of that, you've got to you've got to understand that there are going to be new products and ways of doing things and all of that. And these new refrigerants that are coming out are just a good example of that. I think that's a sign of things to come. It's a sign. I mean, if you go all the way back to the Montreal Protocol, which I believe was in 1987, that was the first course of, well, I don't even know that was the first, because right, we had the phase down of R12 before that, or the phase out of R12. So switching from R12 to R22, that was probably one of the bigger changes. But as Steve says, evolve or get left behind. Yep. So I did a video where I just acknowledged something, and just me acknowledging it, I had people email me saying, "Oh, you're a this, you're a that," just for saying, even acknowledging something. And I'm like, I didn't even pick a side. I didn't even say anything. And they said me just bringing it up or talking about it was being political. So, anyway, Neil says, "Is that a Rush song, Steve?" Uh, if you've never seen the movie I Love You Man, and their infatuation for the band Rush, that is such a funny movie. And I'll be honest with you, it made me more of a fan of Rush and their music. So it made it kind of fun. So anyway, looks like we got a good crowd tonight. The chat is buzzing a little here. If you've got any heating and air questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. In the meantime, I do got plenty to go over with you guys tonight. I'm hoping maybe, just maybe, we can get, I did make a few changes behind the scenes, hoping that we can get this system, or my computer that is, to do what I want it to do. Let me see if I can get one of our crazy clips to play here. Bear with me. This is actually one of my favorite segments that we do, the crazy clips, because some of them are so crazy. But the question is it going to play? That's the real question here. And so far the answer is no. So we'll probably come back to that right there. Um, let me move on. We've been doing some polls, right? So our question used or our segment that I used to always do was polls, questions for you guys. And then in addition to that, we started doing polls on our channel. And this week's poll, what I thought was interesting because we actually started getting quite a few comments on it. And so the question was, do you have a smart thermostat? And hopefully you guys can see this. It looks like, see if I can zoom in a little bit more. It says, do you have a smart thermostat? 61% of people that answered this said that they do, that yes, they do have a smart thermostat. And 39% of you said no. And this has been one of the questions that I've received the most amount of votes on. 185 people. Maybe you guys are getting ready to place a large vote soon. Maybe you're raring and ready to vote on something, and maybe that's why. But I thought it was interesting because when I posed that question, I wasn't quite sure what we were going to get. I wasn't sure if we were, I was actually surprised that, we're here at almost 40% of people saying, no, I still do not have a smart thermostat. And some of them, I think that that's on purpose. I don't think it's just one of those deals where they just haven't upgraded yet. I think that I know that based on some of the comments we received, that some folks were saying, I don't want it. I don't want a smart thermostat. You know, this comment says, I do, but in rural US without broadband, so somewhat pointless except for a basic time scheduling day. That's true. You're not going to be able to do certain features that a number of the thermostats offer. Geofencing's out the window. Um, you know, basing the operation of your system on outside temperature, if it gets that with the internet, is another one. This fella says, I refuse to connect it to the smart grid run by the Church of Climatology. I don't care how many donuts they'll give me. Ethan says, I don't have a smart thermostat, but I do have a programmable thermostat, but I don't use the programming on mine. So it works like a standard up and down thermostat. And Free Dog says, mine is pretty stupid. We're going to give that one a little heart. In fact, we'll give all of these a little heart there. That's pretty funny. So what are your thoughts? Do you have a smart thermostat? Why not? If you don't, I think that, again, I went into that question thinking I was going to receive votes on one versus the other, just finding out that it was almost half of each, and folks purposely staying where they are, I thought was interesting. Neil says, it's a paraphrase. I can't remember the exact lyric. Gary says, I think I am seeing a change in your lighting and it looks brighter and really highlights your face. Winky face. Thank you. I'm actually using a different camera. I did a class a couple weeks ago and left all my cords in the classroom, and I've not been to that classroom. I'm actually going back tomorrow. So one of you noted that you liked this better, that my setup with this camera a little better. So let me know your thoughts. Do you like this better? Does it highlight my face better? I think it's funny. Let's see. Close enough. Smokey says, my issue with replacement refrigerants for cars and trucks from R12 to 134A and now probably 1234 YF are neither as good as the original R12 with supply air temps. That's very true. The heat transfer on a lot of the older refrigerants were definitely better. R22 was better than a lot of the residential performance, the performance that we're seeing in a lot of the residential refrigerants out there right now. So I had a love affair with R22. It was good stuff, and man, she blew cool. T87. Steve says old reliable T87. Let's pull this up. So T87 thermostat. Oh, yeah, I see what you guys are talking about now. Old trusty. Old trusty, the old round dial. Um, yep, the ones that you better make sure that they're level, right? Because that bolt that mercury bouncing back and forth in there, you could really have a time in there. By the time I got in this trade, these were still around quite a bit, but digital thermostats were still, that most new systems that were being installed were still getting at least a Honeywell 3000. And I've been in this trade for over 20 years now. So that tells you how long it's been since mechanical thermostats were predominant. Because by then, digital thermostats were already dominating the market. So let's see. Larry says, I never program my thermostat. I still like to adjust temperatures myself. Like that control. He's a control freak. Larry, I actually almost messaged you day before yesterday or yesterday. So I might be messaging you soon. Just to go ahead and put you on alert. Smokey says, love my simple Honeywell programmable stat, which is connected to my home's internet for viewing on my phone when away from home is awesome, which is all I'll ever need. I have to admit, I like technology. When I get my hands on a new thermostat, my wife makes fun of me because we've probably had at least a dozen different thermostats installed in our home at any given time. Whenever, especially if a new thermostat came out and I was wanting to possibly sell it at our company, I wanted to use it. I wanted to test it, see what my thoughts are on it. In fact, I think that's what everyone should do. It's kind of hard not to. It's kind of hard to talk about something if you've never actually used it, right? But that's a good point. Let's see. Is this thing going to work? It is working. Okay. Let me see if I can switch you guys to this screen. Is this going to work? Is the volume going to play as the part of the answer here too? So I think this one needs to have sound. Hold on. Well, okay. Maybe it doesn't need sound. Let me see if I can switch this to this for you guys. So okay. Let me know if you guys can hear anything. I actually don't hear anything on my end. But maybe there's just no sound and that's why. But is this thing going to play or not? As soon as I make it full screen, then it stops playing. It was just playing. Story of my life. Try the old reload. Well, we'll see if it gets playing here in a second. It played there first. I actually watched it, and I wanted to see if it had sound before I actually brought it on full screen. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, back to the smart thermostats. I thought that was an interesting poll. Again, I don't think I got the answer. I honestly thought when I posted that we were gonna it was gonna be one way or the other. I thought we were either gonna see a lot of the folks say that no, I'm just, very much against switching, and we were going to see only like 10% have smart thermostats or vice versa. That we were going to see a bunch of folks saying, but for it to be kind of right down the middle there almost, I thought that was interesting. Not not what I expected. Um, let's see. I was going to, man, this video not playing is kind of throwing me off here. Um, I was in a webinar today. Daikin went over their timeline of their ductless equipment coming out with the R32 refrigerant, and I thought it was interesting because of some of the new products that they've got coming out, and I think I can talk about at least some of those. So again, I don't want to step on. I can tell you this, that they've got some really cool stuff coming, that there aren't going to be too many products that other people offer that they don't offer. So maybe that is okay to say. um so again, I don't want to get in trouble and say things that I shouldn't, but they got some really cool stuff all that they're coming up with. And the other thing that I'll say that I think I'm okay in saying is, actually, let me see if it's actually launched on their website, because that would be really cool to see if that's out, because they have a new look on one of their products. I think I'm okay in saying that even if it's not out. Um let me see if I can get it to bear with me. It doesn't look like it's out on the website yet. Bear with me. One of their products on the ductless side of things is getting a fresh look. Let's put it that way. And I really liked it. They said that it was designed in Europe, and I thought it was a good looking unit. I'll, so even if I'm not allowed to show pictures of it yet, you guys know me. I love to tease you. I love to tell you about the things that are coming, and then not tell you what it is. But but I actually wanted to show you a picture of this, and I'm just not seeing it yet. Let me see if I can find the model number. Hold on one second, because if I can search the model number and it's on the internet, then I know I can talk about it, right? I mean, if they've launched it and it's on the internet, then I know I can talk about it. Okay. Hmm. Bear with me. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. So unless, is this one? I don't know that it's launched enough. I don't know that they've actually announced it yet, guys. So I don't want to get in trouble. They are our biggest sponsor on our channel. They're who I sold at my company. They're the only manufacturer that I approached to sponsor us. Um and so I just don't want to get in trouble. But I can just tell you that it's nice. It's a fresh look, and I can't wait for you to see it. But I just don't want to get in trouble on that front. Now, is this daggone thing going to play now? Okay, all right. So we've got this furnace. Hopefully, you guys can see this now. Let me get my fat face out of the way here. But if you watch right up there at the flames, as soon as that indoor fan motor kicks on, watch those flames. And again, I'm not hearing anything. Maybe you guys are. Let me know if you're hearing the operation of that system, but I'm not hearing anything. Look at that. So as soon as the fan motor turned on, And so I don't think it blows it out. I think that those flames would have kept on going. I think the rollout switch got too hot and it kills the system. And that's why you see it. That's why you saw it stop there for a second. So, um, anyway, you guys got quiet on me. The chat kind of got quiet there for a moment there. So you guys are just watching my lovely videos here, which is great. um, let's see, switch back to our chat here. Hey Ryan, good to see you, buddy. Um, did I miss a couple comments here? No, I read that comment. Yep. Smokey says regarding Heil inverter smart heat pumps, are they reliable compared to Daikin SP? I mean, I've never actually sat down and compared the two 1 to 1. I know that so obviously I drank the Kool-Aid for Daikin. I just kind of gave them a plug and they are our sponsor tonight. But Heil has the ICP product line. They have a decent reputation in our industry. I've got friends that sell ICP products, and one in particular that sells Heil, and he loves it. He won't sell anything else. So, but I have not seen them, or I've never actually compared them one on one. I don't know if they've come out with a high SEER unit yet, though, the ICP line. So Carrier has their 20 plus SEER communicating inverter Infinity line, and of course Bryant Evolution. But when it came to their ICP products, let's see. So which one's their top of the line here? So that HVH8 up to 18.5 SEER, and that's their highest one. Yeah. So let's see. They've got a side discharge one here up to 18 SEER too. Yeah, so I have not seen them launch any, like, I think their highest SEER unit, the ICP brands have for heat pumps anyway, is 18.5. So that's not bad. I mean, I'm not saying that's horrible. Especially if it's a communicating inverter system, it's still probably significantly more efficient than any single stage system out there. But it's just interesting how Carrier, and again, I don't know, I always get corrected on this because I'll say, well, Carrier owns ICP, and they'll say, well, they don't actually own them, and they blah blah blah, they're owned by the same people. That used to be true when it was United Technologies, but now I don't understand all the corporate stuff. So supposedly they're on their own now, and they own them or something like that. But anyway, so that's the top of the line ICP one, 18.5 SEER. But then when you go to Carrier's website, Carrier has, let's see, I got to go to homes, residential. Heat pumps. And so they're top of the line. They've got that unit they call the Green Speed heat pump, 25 VNA4. So is that up to 25 SEER? What do I got to do? Click on it. Let's see. It's up to 23 SEER. So anyway, yeah, it just goes to show it's not the exact same products, even if they are owned by the same company. So, which I think is interesting. They've got their way of doing things. What are your thoughts, folks? What are your thoughts on that? Let's see. Ryan says, what's the HVAC acquisition in your title? I know I'm late, just wondering. Rheem actually is acquiring Nortek is the stories that came out a couple weeks ago. ICP brands have high SEER inverter units. Also, Jordan Penn says, my Daikin mini split is working fine, just waiting for a cold winter to put it to the test last winter was very mild. Um, which model do you have, Jordan Penn? Do you have the Aurora or one of the low ambient temperature ones, or do you have just the like an Otera or Intra? Just out of curiosity. Ryan says, "How does EER2 relate to SEER2? I heard EER ratings mean more in very hot climates." I've heard this spiel, and in fact, I've watched a couple videos on this. But it says EER and SEER are both ratings that measure how efficiently an air conditioning uses energy. EER measures the efficiency of an air conditioner at a specific temperature and humidity level. EER is calculated using a steady outside temperature of 95 degrees. So it might be a more apples to apples representation when you're comparing systems. SEER is a good choice for overall energy efficiency. EER a better choice if you live in a hot and dry climate where the system will be operating at high temperatures for extended periods of time. EER is constant across all areas, so it can be used to compare cooling systems in all regions. So there's your answer to that, my friend. And I've heard that too, that depending on where you're located in the country, it makes more sense for you to pay closer attention to the EER versus the SEER rating. So that answers that, my friend. Let's see. Man, you guys are so quiet tonight. So quiet. So I'm going to go to maybe to get you guys cooking, get you guys chatting and jumping in. Let's go to tonight's question for you. My question for you tonight, let's see. Let me go back to my list, make sure I don't say the same question that we've used in other shows. Bum, 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 bum. Do you have any ductwork problems in your home that you know of? Do you have a room that is warmer than the rest, cooler than the rest? Maybe certain parts of the house blow like harder out the vents than other parts of the house. And have you had that looked at? Does it concern you at all? Um, I can think of some of the homes that we would go into, and I've actually done videos on this where some homes it can be three different things that could be causing that. The first one is a zoning problem, right? If you've got certain parts of the home that are, say, higher in elevation, right? So if you've got a second floor, heat rises. If you're going to be using the same exact system for the entire home, you really need to zone that, right? Because heat rises. Um, if you were to, let's just say, you could say to me, well, Josh, you know, I'm really good at sizing ductwork, and I can oversize the ductwork going upstairs in the summertime so that way it blows more cool air in there. And you don't have to have zoning. And my answer to that would be, well, yeah, but what about when it becomes wintertime? Heat still rises in the wintertime too. And now you've got this oversized ductwork going to the upstairs. You're now dumping lots of heat upstairs because you've oversized it. And so again, it's a zoning problem. It's not a ductwork problem. The second scenario would be an actual ductwork problem. If you've got a room that's just, hotter than the rest or cooler than the rest, depending on what time of year, it could be getting more air or not enough air compared to the rest of the house. And obviously that is a ductwork issue. That's not a zoning issue. We've done a video on that. And then the last scenario that I will just throw out there, if you've got a room hotter or cooler than the rest, is something wrong with the home, right? If you've got a problem in your that particular room, an insulation issue, a building envelope issue, then that is something that you're going to have to address that separately. Obviously, it's not an HVAC issue, but it also does affect your HVAC, because let's say you just go in there willy nilly and fix that problem. And now you've got this room that you've now fixed whatever the issue was, the window that was leaking too much air, the foundation vent that keeps being left open, or whatever that issue is, added more insulation maybe. Now you've fixed it, and now it's time to maybe address again a ductwork or zoning issue at that point. Ryan says, do you think Rheem buying Nortek, that the combined company's resources will make it a major player like Daikin, Carrier, Train, Linux, instead of a mid-major player it is today? It's hard to answer that, Ryan. It really boils down to, I, I'll tread lightly when it comes to Rheem, because there are folks out there that love Rheem. Like they just love it, right? I did a video with one of them because I, wanted to give someone. In fact, if you're a pro, I will extend this invite here and now. I've invited pros before to give them an opportunity to get on their soapbox and tell me why they like what they like. We can do an interview. You can talk about, I'm not going to debate you. You're allowed to have your own opinions. And there are companies that like other brands than what I like. And so, I invite anyone that is interested. And so I did that once. I invited a guy that was in our chat, and he took me up on it, and we did a video on Rheem, and he loved Rheem. But I think most folks would agree in our industry that, if we were to pick a big three for as far as a premium quality product, if we're talking warranty coverage, parts availability. Oh, look at that. I got the little thing popping up over there. But if we're talking about, warranty coverage and of parts availability and just quality of products and just a more premium brand, I don't know too many. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I don't know too many heating and air guys that would put them in that conversation for at least the top three. Now, I'm not saying they're not a big player though. I mean, they do some business in our industry. And so I'm not saying they're not a big player, but would acquiring Nortek cause them to automatically be one of the big players? And you guys know how I feel about Nortek. Ryan, I went on a rant at the beginning of the show when it came to Nortek. If I live in cold climate country, Canada, should I pay more attention to HSPF specs or the SEER spec? I'm going to give you one better on that, Bill. I would look at COP. If heating is your biggest concern, HSPF is good, but I would look at COP. That's your big one. That's your number. In fact, I think we could get to a point where we only talk about COP when it comes to heating systems, especially if we start to move in a direction in our country like Europe, using technologies like air to water technology. COP is a big rating when it comes to that. So Ryan says, I had a ductwork issue with a room that could not reach temperature due to it being so far from the unit, 70 feet plus away. Single zone. So one side of the house heats quickly. Why that room heated slowly? Wow, that room heated slowly. Okay. I had a ductwork issue with a room that could not reach temperature due to. Interesting. Yeah, that's something you got to account for, I think. When you're doing your duct layout, distance adds to the issues of ductwork, right? That's it's just a part of the animal, part of the beast, and you got to understand that when you're doing the rest of your ductwork layout. If you've got a room that's right beside the HVAC unit, and you've got one that's going to be 50 to 70 feet away from that unit, maybe, just maybe, they don't get the exact same size duct run to that room just based on square footage. Maybe you need to size accordingly to get a little more oomph pushed to those further away rooms. You know, I've actually helped people on our website, New HVAC Guide, and one of the things I'll tell them sometimes is go ahead and close some of those other vents, especially the ones that are close to that unit. Close them a little bit. Don't close them entirely, but close them a little bit just to add a little bit of, restriction there, a little bit of static to try to push some of that oomph. And that'll tell you a story. It'll tell you if it does fix the problem, that tells you something. And if it doesn't fix the problem, that tells you something, you know? Smokey says, after 40 years, my options for making improvements to the ductwork is not just doable, just going to live with it for another 10 years or so. LOL. uh, you sound like a lot of homeowners. Brian says, bought a mini split instead of moving the unit, or the other choice was to change the ductwork for it to possibly work better. That's the other thing with some of these repairs that I don't think we talk about enough, right? Because when a heating and air company comes in and they say, oh, I think that this will fix your problem, and it's going to cost you this much money. It's going to cost you $5,000, $10,000. And you're like, if I pay you $5,000, I better be getting some sort of guarantee it's going to fix my problem, right? I need a guarantee that this is going to fix my issue. If that my ducts are leaking and you putting in new sealed, brand new ductwork is going to fix that issue. I need some sort of guarantee here. And I'm not sure companies are going to be willing to do that. But it is one of the conundrums sometimes, because we're not throwing around small numbers sometimes, Jordapen says it's a 2MXL 18MQ or QMVJUEC. Yeah, I think that's just the standard MX series, I think. 2MXL, 18,000 BTU enhanced capacity with two 12,000 BTU units. I live in Southern Ontario. Okay. Oh, no, 2MX. So I think MXS is the, let's look at this up. 2MXL. I can't show you guys my screen because it's not on a website. It downloaded a PDF. 2-port, 1.5. Oh, is this the Sierra? 2MXL. I think this might be the Sierra. Let me go to the website here. I think that might be the Sierra's model number. Multi-zone. And if it is, no, that says 2MX18. So I don't know. You're hitting me with model numbers. I'm on a live show here. So, but you said it's got the enhanced capacity for heating, so it should do well. I mean, I'm just not familiar with that model number right this second. Is that, let's see, is that comparable to the Aurora? Let's see, multi-zone, Aurora. Bear with me, guys. Oh, yeah. So that's the Aurora. Yeah. You're good. Yeah, you should be good. The Aurora is their low ambient temperature. In fact, I've got a video coming up where we actually compare that unit. I think it's the Aurora. They've got it sitting in a room that is 17 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's got a 50-degree heat rise on that unit. I mean, that's like a gas furnace, 50-degree heat rise, which is impressive, right? But yeah, keep us updated, you know? I mean, you haven't really gotten to put it to the test, right? So keep us updated. Yes, just that's why I was saying the company's combined resources. I would assume that they would invest in R&D and come up with new products to compete with other major players. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the game, right? I was just simply picking on them because of who they acquired. The indoor units are floor units. Nice. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Why can't we have a multi-head mini split standard in the US? Can you expand on that, Philip? What do you mean by standard? Multi-head mini split standard. Or do you mean make them standard in the US? Like make them like what we I actually literally just recorded a video on that exact topic this morning. I think the video is going to be called six. Keep an eye out for that video. 6 reasons mini splits have a bad reputation, I think is what that video is going to be called. I just literally recorded it this morning. Smokey says, my Rheem Rude heat pump unit is now 23 years old. And the only issue for me is the intermittent fan auto fan on operation. Interesting. No one said it would be 100% fix. Mini split was the guarantee. Exactly. It's a really good point. I don't blame you on that. You know, instead of throwing a bunch of money at the ductwork and not sure if it's going to work, you attack it like it is a zoning problem, even though it probably was more of a ductwork problem. And you know, I think you made the right move, obviously. Meaning when the fan setting to constant on and sometimes is off, but the fan will cycle on a compressor operation. Interesting. Interesting. That would probably bother me too. Richard, welcome to the show. Do you think I should wait until next year to replace my 5-ton R22 unit or do it now with 410A? Do you think the prices would go up a lot with A2L units slash refrigerant? Well, it's a loaded question. I mean, one thing's for sure. If you do put a 410A system in, 410A is being phased down. And so will that affect the price of 410A in the future if you were to have a problem? I would think the answer is yes. You know, so I think that's one thing just immediately I would point out. But secondly, the equipment, when it first started coming out, there was a lot of scare tactics by a lot of shady contractors and maybe ignorant contractors too, telling homeowners. In fact, some of you commented on our channel saying some of these contractors were saying that prices were going to jump 30, 40, 50% for equipment if you don't buy a system now, right? And that's what they were telling folks. And we are seeing a price hike with these new refrigerants with the equipment itself. But I don't think we're seeing 50%. I don't even know that we've seen 30%. I think we've seen, you know, somewhere between, I don't know, 3 and 10% increases. And that's simply, you know, mostly because of the, you know, number one, inflation these days. So I did a video on this, but also the other thing is these new systems do have hardware that the old systems just don't have. They have mitigation sensors in there and in some cases other hardware because of that. So um honestly, Richard, if my answer to you is get as much life out of that R22 system as you can, if it's running efficiently, if it's heating and cooling your home okay. If it's not, then maybe that would play a role in my decision. But if it's working okay, um you know, that would if you were my own family, that would maybe be the route I would go, you know. um Especially with some of the ratings that we're seeing coming out with some of these systems. I mean, I was looking at today at some of the ratings on the R32 stuff, and you know, it's just it's good stuff. You know, I wish we would have made this change originally, and I think a lot of other people are starting to feel that way too. That, you know, when we were phasing out R22, just switching to R32, right? But that doesn't make people rich. So they've got to figure out, I don't know. At least that's what a lot of other heating and air guys will say. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they say. Bill says, people smash that like button. I'd also like to say that I agree with what Bill is saying right there. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. Smokey says the ductless mini splits do have crazy temperature deltas. Some of them are. It's very interesting, that these little units can do what they can do. Hopefully we see that technology just continue to get better. Jordan says the best winter performance so far was 12 degrees Celsius while keeping the house at 22 degrees Celsius last February. That sounds good. I don't know what that means from I'm a Fahrenheit guy. Let's see. What is negative 12 Celsius to Fahrenheit? So 10 degrees. Okay. 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's pretty chilly. That's pretty chilly. I know I'm one of those dumb Americans, and we use Fahrenheit. And so it kept the house at 71 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Yeah, very cool. And if it's doing that, and again, you have no auxiliary heat source, that's impressive, man. I mean, I think that's something to you know, that's something to actually brag about. Ryan says, "Do you think people that don't necessarily need to upgrade their systems next year to wait until contractors get a year under their belts installing the new A2L refrigerants? I want to wait and see." I I mean, I don't think that it's that drastic of a change, if I'm being completely honest. I can understand why somebody may say that, but I don't think, I mean, at least with R32, it's actually easier to work with than 410A. It's not a blend, it's a single component. And so, fractionation and um some of the other issues that blends have, drawing a blank on what that other verbiage is. I can pull it up here. Fractionation and bear with me here. I'm going to my A2L class. I'm just drawing a blank on what that other verbiage is. I just wish my computer would move faster. When I run an internet speed test, I'll be getting crazy internet speeds, but then it'll creep like it's. There it goes. Okay. Glide. You got it, Ryan. You don't have to worry about Glide with a single component refrigerant either. So very much so, very much so. And we are running right up into 9:30 here. I've seen A2L units have lower ratings, it seems. Looked at Goodman and Payne, and the equivalent seemed to be zero point 0.5 lower SEER2 ratings. What unit companies did you see with higher ratings? Well, I will actually prepare some and show you. I don't have any at my fingertips right this second, but maybe next week I'll get some put together and show you what I'm talking about. Um, I know the class that I was in today, the same exact mini split, just going from 410A to R32, the COP ratings were significantly higher. So I can't speak for SEER, but I I haven't seen any go down. So that's interesting if that's what you're seeing. Maybe it wasn't the equivalent, or I don't know, but you should not be seeing a decrease. It should be equivalent or pretty close, or actually an increase when comparing apples to apples. And that's true for both of the new refrigerants. Smokey says, I have no confidence in the regulatory commission and their edicts when we've seen their replacement plans that are again outdated. Yeah, you're not the only one, buddy. I think there's a lot of folks that feel that way. And you know, I think it's just the world we live in these days, unfortunately. I don't know what to say to that. Let's do this though. I mean, it looks like we've still got a really good crowd that's still here with us. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for all the support we've been receiving. I do have some really cool videos coming, so keep an eye on our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe, hit that bell, hit that like button on this video. All those things help our algorithm out. It tells YouTube that, that there's some value in what we're providing, and I do appreciate that personally and genuinely. That said, we know there's some bad apples in our industry. There's some folks that make us all look bad. And so as we wrap up our show tonight, do me a favor. If you know a good apple, if you know a good HVAC, electrical, or plumbing company, drop their name and where they're located in the chat. You'll do a couple things. Number one, you're going to show them a little bit of love, but you also may show them a little more than love. You may actually, you never know, somebody in your area may see your message and you may actually send them some business. And that's the goal here, to take care of the good apples, right? So Gary says, until next week, have a good week. Smokey says, appreciate your hard work. Thanks, pal. Appreciate that. So yeah, drop those good companies and we will highlight them. We'll pop up on our screen here. Ryan says, oh, COP, that's different. I didn't look at that. Next week, we can pull up a few manufacturers' websites and compare. Absolutely. Let's see. Richard says, do you think that non-licensed people to buy A2L refrigerants for use by trained professionals only? I get in trouble with this one, man, because most of my audience is homeowners and a lot of you guys are DIYers. It's just hard for me to be on board knowing what I know. I see folks they'll comment on our videos and say, well, your trade ain't that dark. Why do you act like it's so hard? It ain't that hard. And I agree with them to an extent, especially when they see folks in our industry that don't seem to be students of the trade, and they are not trying to get better, and they are cutting corners and things like that. And I can understand that frustration. But when I also see videos of some of the third degree burns that folks have gotten from refrigerants and some of the electrical issues causing, houses to burn down, and some of the stories we've even talked about on our own channel of boilers and furnaces exploding in homes. And then lastly, things like carbon monoxide and other dangers. It's DIY for me is tough to get behind, especially when we're talking about folks that have families and a lot of folks will even hear this and comment and say, oh, you're just saying that because we're taking money out of your pocket. I'm out of the game, buddy. I sold my company. This is coming from a genuine place. This ain't a greedy place. This is me concerned for someone doing something to hurt you or your family. And so it's hard for me to get behind that. It's a good question. That said, if you know what you're doing, I can understand why you might look at other options, especially when you've had contractors fall short. It's a pickle. It really is. Ryan says TNC Heating and Cooling. He has promoted you guys before, so you must be doing something right. Also, super cool HVAC and the Charlotte area. Smokey says HVAC work is no joke. Collateral damage is huge, and be careful. We've got a video coming up where we're going to talk about if you guys want a rabbit hole to go down the rabbit hole of long-term exposure to small amounts of carbon monoxide. That is a crazy rabbit hole. There are people that have been diagnosed with all kinds of illnesses, mental problems. They were actually having mental issues only to find out that it was a carbon monoxide problem. There are folks that are on tons of medications trying to treat all these different problems, only to find out if they just fix the carbon monoxide leak in their home that they're off of them. They're off the meds, right? And you may say, well, Josh, I don't even have gas appliances in my home. That is something that is a misnomer. There are tons of one of the stories that I recently heard, the neighbor would start their car in the mornings and the exhaust pipe being close to the something that was pulling air into their home. I don't know if it was ventilation or a foundation vent, whatever it was, but it was really it was creating a big problem for these folks. So that's a rabbit hole you want to go down right there. And I'm with you on that, Smokey. Mike Stevenson says Timberland Air. So shout out to those folks. They must be doing something right for Mike to shout their name out. That said, we will be back. Let me say this. If you are still here with us, there are going to be some Tuesday nights coming up that I won't be available. I already know it. I've already seen it in the schedule, and I will keep you guys in the know. We will put it on the community tab in the YouTube channel, and I don't know, we might still do something on those weeks, but I just know that it won't be on Tuesday nights of those weeks. So that said, we will be back next Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. If nothing else, just want to say thank you to all of you that joined us tonight. Make sure you're here again next week. I'll try to put together another jam-packed show. In the meantime, make it a great week. We'll see you then.